Learning a new language is an act of listening. It's training the ear for a new rhythm, a new melody. Today's story is an invitation for you to listen in a different way, and an immersive opportunity to enhance your English comprehension as we explore one of the most urgent quests of our time. We live in the midst of a silent epidemic. It's not viral, but it's contagious. It's the epidemic of excess, the incessant buzz of notifications, the endless stream of news, the constant pressure to always be connected, always productive, always available. The noise of the world has become the soundtrack of our lives. The question, then, is not how we can escape this noise. The question is, if we cannot turn off the world, how do we find the silence within ourselves? This is the story of Dr. Lena, a woman whose job was to teach calmness to others, but who had lost her own in the midst of the storm. To the world, and especially to her patients, Dr. Lena was the personification of calm. In her Manhattan office, she was the serene rock upon which the storms of others broke. But inside, it was a different story. The anxiety specialist was, herself, a masterpiece of stress. Her life was an equation of 60-hour work weeks, a mind that never switched off, and a diet of caffeine and breaking news. Her professional facade was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. The saturation point arrived on a Tuesday morning, in the crush of a subway car. The sound of the wheels on the tracks became deafening. The fluorescent lights began to flicker in her peripheral vision, and the air felt heavy and thin. Her heart raced. In that moment, all her theoretical knowledge, all the techniques she taught with such confidence, evaporated. She was not a doctor. She was just a woman drowning on dry land. Acting on pure instinct, she got off at the next station, pushing through the crowd, and climbed the stairs towards the light as if her life depended on it. She emerged on the corner of Central Park, breathless, the city's sounds muffled by the ringing in her ears. And it was there, with her lungs burning and the world spinning around her, that she saw him for the first time. Under an old tree, moving with the slowness of a cloud, was a figure of unshakable serenity, a patch of calm in the middle of her blurred vision. She didn't know why, but her feet carried her towards the tree, moved by something her logical mind couldn't name, a mix of curiosity and pure desperation. Lena approached. The man, who called himself Kai, moved as if in a silent dialogue with the air around him. His slow, fluid gestures, a stark contradiction to the frantic rush of the city that surrounded them. When he finished his movement, his eyes met hers. He didn't need a diagnosis to see the storm behind her professional gaze. He saw the tremor in her hands, her short breath. With a voice that was like the sound of dry leaves, he said the sentence that would begin to change everything. The city's wind doesn't stop, but you can learn to dance with it. And then that gentleman told her how he went from a very stressed former engineer to a Tai Chi master who could handle life's problems and stress with a serenity and perspective very different from before. Lena expected a cliché, perhaps the name of a book. Instead, Kai pulled something unexpected from a small cloth bag, a simple bamboo flute, smooth and unadorned. He held it out to her. To Lena, the psychologist, whose world was made of diagnoses, clinical studies, and scientific methods, this was an anomaly. It was an esoteric solution to a problem she had dedicated her life to understanding through science. It was too simple. It was almost an insult. Back in her office, the sanctuary of her competence, Lena looked at the bamboo flute as if it were an alien artifact. Her mind, trained to dissect emotions with the precision of a scalpel, to find patterns and apply evidence-based protocols, rejected its simplicity. It was nonsense, an anecdote, and with the conviction of a scientist, she put the flute in the deepest drawer of her desk, determined to overcome the crisis with the tools she mastered. But the internal storm didn't care about her credentials. The following days were worse. Her self-awareness of the anxiety didn't stop her from feeling its claws. On the contrary, she now had the added burden of feeling like a fraud. There, sitting in the chair where she promised healing to others, she found herself failing her own treatment, an expert drowning in her own field of study. It was in this moment of deep frustration, feeling cornered by her own knowledge, that desperation became a catalyst. She opened the drawer. The flute was there, a silent invitation. And so, she decided, not out of faith, but out of a lack of options, she would commit to a small experiment, almost to prove to herself that Kai was wrong. 3 minutes. 3 minutes of guided breathing with the flute before each appointment. No expectations, just to see what would happen. The first few days of the experiment were torture. Lena's mind, accustomed to speed, screamed in protest during each session. 3 minutes felt like an eternity, filled not with peace, but with a mental list of emails, worries, and diagnoses. No magic happened. There was only the sound of her own breath, strange and forced, and the ticking of the clock on her wall. The change came on the 7th day. During a consultation, a patient, overwhelmed by a professional crisis, began to have an acute panic attack right in front of her. The fear in his eyes was a mirror, triggering Lena's own latent storm. She felt her heart accelerate and sink, the floor beginning to disappear. And in that moment, out of pure survival instinct, she clung to the only thing she had practiced. She closed her eyes for a second and began to breathe. Slowly, deeply, and steadily, as if she were holding the bamboo flute. And then, something extraordinary happened. As the rhythm of her breathing deepened, the hurricane in her mind began to subside, and her newfound, still fragile calm became an anchor for the patient. Her voice, now steady, guided him out of the crisis with a clarity that didn't come from books, but from a place of experienced peace. The epiphany hit her with the force of a revelation. The flute, the breath, Kai's lesson. It was never a tool for her patients. It was for her. She needed to heal herself to be able to truly heal others. From that day on, the 3 minutes ceased to be a skeptical experiment and became an essential part of her life. The practice was no longer a chore, but a refuge. She was no longer trying to stop the city's wind. She was, finally, learning to dance with it. Lena's journey, the therapist who found her cure in the whisper of the wind, teaches us a fundamental lesson. True calm is not the absence of the storm. It is not a utopian destination where problems cease to exist. True calm is the peace we learn to cultivate in the eye of the hurricane. It is the ability to control not the external chaos, but our breath within it. Today's story invites us to ask, what is your bamboo flute? What is the simple, 3-minute practice, the anchor you can use to steady yourself when the wind of modern life becomes overwhelming? It might not be a flute, but perhaps it's a cup of tea, a song, or simply the act of looking out the window and focusing on a single leaf on a tree. If this parable about finding calm in the midst of chaos resonated with you, leave a comment below. Like and share the video so this message can find others navigating their own storms. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that help you learn English. Until next time, breathe deeply, respect the process, and find your rhythm in the dance with the wind.